Volcanoes are openings within the Earth's crust that allow for lava, ash and gas to erupt from. And for GCSE geography, there are just two types of volcano that you need to know. Firstly, we have the destructive composite volcanoes, sometimes known as a stratovolcano, or the less destructive shield volcanoes. And in today's video, we are going to examine these two types of volcanoes and their key features. And we'll even look at a way to help you remember which one is which. And so, with that being said, let's get on with today's video. Chances are, if I asked you to imagine a volcano in your head, you would imagine something along the lines of a very tall, mountain-esque landform that has very steep sides and emits very powerful eruptions. That right there is a composite volcano. Composite volcanoes are typically found along destructive plate boundaries. If you need a refresher, click on the video, link tooltip thing in the corner, and that will take you to my video on the plate margins. Carrying on. Composite volcanoes erupt andesitic lava, meaning that once the lava cools, it's going to form andesitic rocks. This lava tends to be very sticky or very viscous, as we would call it, meaning that it flows a little bit more like honey than it does water. It's also very hot, at about 900 to 1100 degrees Celsius. Because andesitic lava flows a bit more like honey than it does water, it means it doesn't travel very far. So after the initial eruption, this honey-like, very viscous andesitic lava does not flow very far away from the original eruption site. This in turn means that the andesitic lava cools, it solidifies right next to the volcano and it builds up in layers very, very quickly. This forms very steep sides, hence why composite volcanoes tend to be very, very steep. Composite volcanoes can also be referred to as stratovolcanoes. Strato coming from the word stratified, meaning that it has layers. And they are called stratovolcanoes because they are stratified. They contain layers within them. Within the cross section, meaning the kind of half view of a stratovolcano, you would find layers of cooled lava, then ash, then cooled lava, then ash, and it would alternate like that as we go through the volcano. And these composite volcanoes, they tend to be much more destructive due to the very high gas and very high silica content found within the andesitic lava. Whilst they are very destructive though, they tend to be much more infrequent or less common. They don't happen all the time. For example, Mount Tambora was a composite volcano and it erupted, and its eruption is considered to be one of the deadliest in history, resulting in potentially the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. In fact, it was such a powerful eruption, it produced one of the loudest sounds in Earth's history. If the eruption happened in Maine, USA, you could hear it 3,000 miles away, what would be somewhere like London in the UK. So right across the Atlantic Ocean, you could still hear the eruption. That's pretty big. That is a pretty big eruption. Now, not all volcanoes are as explosive as Mount Tambora was. Shield volcanoes, for example, are found at constructive plate boundaries and tend to be much less destructive. Shield volcanoes tend to erupt with basaltic lava, which means that when the lava cools, it forms basaltic rocks or basalt. It tends to be much more runny than the andesitic lava, and it tends to be a little bit cooler, somewhere between 800 and 1000 degrees Celsius. You know, still fairly hot, just a little bit cooler than andesitic lava. Due to the more runny basaltic lava, it flows much further away from the initial eruption site. What this means is as it cools, it forms a very wide-based, very shallow volcano rather than the steep-sided composite volcanoes we find. Unlike composite volcanoes, shield volcanoes are not as explosive when they erupt, meaning that not a lot of ash is produced, and as a result of that, they're not stratified. They don't have layers inside them. So if we were to have a cross-section, or if we were to kind of cut a shield volcano in half, it wouldn't have those layers like a composite volcano would. It would just be made up of entirely lava, just cooled rock within it, so no alternating layers. And as you'd expect, shield volcanoes are not as destructive. They don't have as explosive eruptions, but they are much more common. So for example, Mauna Loa in Hawaii. Whilst Mauna Loa is not found at a constructive plate boundary, it is found at a volcanic hotspot, meaning that in essence it is still a shield volcano. It is considered to be the most active volcano on Earth and has erupted 33 times since 1843, or basically once every 5 years, give or take. And so here's my little trick to help you remember which one is which. We have what are called CADs and scabs. So back in the 1950s and 60s, the term CADs was a word that could be used to describe men, particularly men that were very slim, very tall, and could get quite angry, quite destructive. And in many ways, they shared similarities with our composite volcanoes. So CADs, it stands for composite volcanoes, which emit andesitic lava and tend to be found on a destructive plate boundary. And they are stratified, meaning that they have alternating layers of ash and lava. CADs. Whereas scabs was a term used to describe people that weren't so attractive. They were not people that you would imagine thinking about, kind of like that exercise we did all the way at the start. So in many ways, they're very similar to our shield volcanoes, which are not as tall, not as powerful, and, we don't tend to imagine them when we say the word volcano. So scab, it stands for shield volcanoes, which are found at constructive plate boundaries, and they're made up entirely of all lava. There's no layers or stratification if you were to cut one in half and look at its cross section. The reason for that is they don't emit a lot of ash when they erupt, because they don't have explosive eruptions, because they erupt with basaltic lava. There you go, CADs and scabs, everyone. Enjoy that. And so there you go. A way to remember which one is which. You've got your CAD volcanoes or your composite volcanoes, and then you've got your shield volcanoes, your scab volcanoes. And what I've even gone and done for you to make your life just that little bit easier is I've gone and created a resource for you to print off and stick into your geography books. Or even if you're that into geography, print out and blow it up onto an A3 sheet and stick it to your bedroom wall alongside your poster of whatever kids are into these days. I don't know, vaping and, oh God, that's that's really dark. Please don't vape, it's really bad for you. Don't have it next to a poster of vaping. Here's a poster of vaping anyway. Oh my God, we're going off on a tangent. Moving on. And so there you have it, the two types of volcanoes you need to know for GCSE geography. You've got your shield, you got your composites, you got your CADs, and your scabs, you rotten lot. Make sure you print those posters not next to your poster of vaping. Please don't vape, it's really bad for you. I don't know why I'm getting all preachy about this. Moving on. So thanks for watching today's video, and as always, it's time for you to pack up. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check me out on TikTok. Worksheet is down in the description below. Don't forget the resource. Oh my God, this is never going to end. And I will see you in the next one. Adios. Volcanoes are opening in the Earth's crust that allow ash, lava, and lava, ash, and gases. Okay, so volcanoes are fissures from the Earth's Volcanoes are opening within the Earth's crust that allows for lava, ash, and gas to erupt from. And for GCSE geography, there are just two types of volcano that you need to know. There are more types, it's just you only need to know of these two for the GCSE. You have firstly got the I mixed it up. Okay, and in today's video, we are going to examine the two types.